Hello everyone, I just saw A Quiet Place, and I have to say that it was not nearly as good as I thought it would be, and it's not nearly as good as everyone is hyping it up to be, unfortunately. Let me get something straight first. I absolutely love John Krasinski. The Office is one of my all-time favorite shows, and I think he was absolutely brilliant as Jim. I've watched each episode in The Office at least 3 times, probably more. It's a really good show in that it plays on charming little moments in life and makes seemingly banal events into something special. That being said, I can't say that I thought A Quiet Place was a very good movie. It's the third movie that John Krasinski has directed, and I was super excited for it. The trailer was awesome, and it did a really good job of keeping a lot of mystery while showing off the concept of silence, which was by far the best part of this movie. I'm a huge fan of horror movies, and I couldn't wait to see it, and I thought that the trailer was really appealing, and it was one of my most anticipated movies for this year. I have to say that I'm sorely disappointed. It suffers from hugely cliche horror tropes, which plague most horror movies nowadays. The characters make stupid decisions, the movie is very predictable, and a lot of it just makes no sense, especially in light of the ending. To talk about this movie properly, I need to talk about spoilers, so if you don't want to see any or hear any, please click off the video and go see the movie yourself now. Apparently a lot of people loved it, so maybe you will too. And if you really like the movie, I'm not here to try and criticize you or say you're stupid or have bad taste. It's fine, everyone has different opinions, but I just want to say why I thought it was disappointing. So the concept behind the movie is basically that there are these creatures going around hunting people, but they're totally blind. They rely entirely on sound in order to stalk their victims. So, the main character, who John Krasinski plays, Lee, and his family have devised a ton of interesting ways to keep silent and not alert the creatures. The movie opens with a pretty shocking sequence, which I actually thought set off the movie well. So on the way back from getting supplies from a store, one of the kids gets killed because he sets off this little airplane toy. There is a remarkably stupid aspect to the scene, though. To set this up, basically when they were in the store, the kid tried to take this toy off the shelf. His dad tells him not to get it, but the deaf sister gives it to him anyways. And this idiot kid takes the batteries that were in it. Why batteries came with the toy is a mystery to me. These sorts of toys never come with batteries. But nevertheless, the kid literally puts the batteries in the toy, and then turns it on and gets killed on the way back, because the batteries are going off, so the monster goes over and grabs the kid. But when he turns on the toy, he starts waving around and playing with it while they're walking back. Now, is this kid retarded? Does he have no sense of fear? Like, what the fuck is going on with the way that he acts? He must obviously know how these creatures work by now. Like, what the hell is going on? Why is this kid acting so cavalier about the whole situation? Like, it's pretty obvious that I feel like, considering how careful these parents are, they would have taught their kids, and the kids probably would have seen the monsters by now. In fact, I think they mentioned having seen them before, so why is this kid acting like such a total idiot? Despite the fact that this scene, this aspect of the scene makes no sense, the concept behind the scene was shocking, and I think it was an effective way to start the movie, and I was willing to forgive my annoyance with the kids' actions. I would say that the next part of the movie is the strongest portion. Seeing how they lived and what they do in emergencies was interesting, and frankly my complaints mainly lie with the final third of the movie. One really stupid fucking thing was when Lee and his son are going out to a river and Lee is instructing him, and there's some touching moments I'd say there. But what was dumb is when they eventually get to his house, and there's this old dude who's still alive, but his wife is dead next to him. Now, first of all, there's zero explanation for why they are there. And then when they get there, this old dude's sitting there crying next to the corpse of his wife, which makes sense. And Lee shushes the old guy. But then the old dude just yells, alerting the creatures. Now, what's wrong with this asshole? When his wife died, was he just sitting there waiting for someone to show up so he could risk other people's lives to kill himself? The scene had no purpose other than for shock value, as far as I can tell. The dude's actions are just idiotic and completely unlike how someone would act. It could have worked in a way better way if, for instance, they were witnessing some person they didn't know sitting next to a corpse from afar. So they were sort of at a distance, and the guy was in front of his wife's corpse in sort of far away so that they could see what was going on, but the guy didn't see them. That way it would make sense when the guy screams to kill himself. You'd still get the shock effect, but the guy doesn't come off as some complete asshole who would never exist in real life and do something like that. Now, while these two are out, Lee's wife Evelyn starts going into labor early. This is when the movie starts getting really annoyingly stupid. So Evelyn's doing a pretty good job of not making sounds considering she's going through labor, but she accidentally steps on a nail which is sticking up, and I don't exactly remember when she yells, but she yells or makes a noise at some point and alerts the monsters. So now she's pretty screwed. She runs up to this bathtub after narrowly escaping the monster in what I thought was actually a good scene, but I'll come back to that. And she sits in the bathtub. In order to save Evelyn, Lee has his son run over to these rockets they've set up to create a sound diversion. Now, at this point, I have to ask, aren't there better ways to create sound diversions? I mean, the rockets are fine, but if I were these people, I would have set up stereos all over the farm with extension cables or something, or anything that plays sounds, really, and then just absolutely blasted sound and music when they came anywhere near me. Though, shouldn't they have? I mean, it seems like Lee's pretty good at making little devices, considering he's working on this hearing aid for his daughter the whole time, so I don't see why they couldn't figure it out. So, but anyways, the creature gets distracted, and Evelyn escapes. Then Lee gets to the house and finds his wife all right after this really cheap fake jump scare. But then, all of a sudden, what the fuck? She's sitting there with her baby that she's given birth to? It's been like an hour maximum in this scene, as far as I can tell. It certainly hasn't been the 8 hours necessary to give birth. Now I'm aware that it can happen quicker and there were some cuts, but it just doesn't seem that this chick will be able to have contractions and do everything she's doing in this scene. Ultimately, the movie just didn't make it clear at all how much time had elapsed, and it honestly seemed like a lot less time had elapsed than apparently did elapse if she had birth all of a sudden. So maybe someone has an answer to this. If you do, post it in the comments, but it just wasn't clear to me at all. Now after this, Lee hides his wife in this soundproof basement that they have. I'm also not sure how this place is soundproof. It's literally a mattress and some boards with spaces in between, but whatever. Now that Evelyn and the baby are down there, Lee goes out to look for his kids, who are both on top of a grain silo, which is like this tower with a bunch of grain down in the bottom. The kids fall into the grain silo, the daughter jumps down into the silo with them, and they both barely escape getting killed because they're being so loud in what's admittedly a pretty good intense scene. Although, how they escape seems doubtful to me. Anyways, they meet up with Lee, and they start going back, but they hear the monster. So the kids hide in a car when Lee walks around. At this point, as if it already wasn't clear enough, it becomes obvious that Lee's going to sacrifice himself. And what do you know, all of a sudden the monster is on top of the car attacking the kids who are hiding inside. Now, it is the way that Lee sacrifices himself that I find stupid. First of all, he's been carrying an axe around. He picks an axe up out of this little container because they hear the monster. He gets hit by the monster, and while the kids are hiding in the car. And then when the monster's on top of the car, Lee's about to sacrifice himself. But before he sacrifices himself, he throws the axe away. Now, what the fuck is going on here? Does he just want to die? You're not even going to try swinging the axe at the monster? I mean, I'm aware that he's injured, but it certainly doesn't seem like he's injured in such a way that would have prevented him from using that axe. He literally throws it away. He probably could have helped his kids more by trying to fight and swinging the axe at the monster. And plus, if he wasn't planning on using that axe in the first place, why would he even have gotten it? You could argue that maybe after he got injured, he decided he wouldn't need to use it, but it certainly doesn't seem like that. Then, secondly, before he sacrifices himself, he looks at his daughter, who is, in the car where the monster is on top of shaking him, and he tells her that he loves her twice. This is significant because she blames herself for the kid who died at the start, because if you remember, she's the one who gave him the toy, and so as a result, she sort of doubts her dad's love for her. This is a sweet moment, but it's totally ruined by the fact that the thing's literally on the car tearing it apart. There is no way that he would have had time to do that, and if he really wants to save them, he has no time to act. The movie clearly establishes that these monsters are ultra fast. This could have been a sweet moment if they set up the sacrifice in a totally different way. For instance, they could have been trapped somewhere, and then one of them could have made a noise by accident, and so they know the monster's coming, and he could have grabbed them, and grabbed her specifically, and told her how much he loves her before running somewhere else while yelling. Still, he definitely shouldn't take the time to do that, but at least there he has more time than when the monster's literally about to kill the kids, who apparently can see him, even though there's a rabid creature on top of the car shaking it, tearing it apart, and trying to murder them. So, Jim from the office dies, and now the two kids run back home, and they take shelter in the basement where Evelyn and the baby are. The son hides in the corner with the baby, and Evelyn and the daughter are by some radio equipment. So by this point, the daughter has found out that this hearing aid that her dad had been working on might be the key to fighting the creatures, because the high-pitched feedback it gives off seems to mess with them. This is confirmed when a creature comes down, and she turns it on, and it starts going apeshit. She magnifies the sound by putting it next to a microphone to mess with the monster even more. Then it falls over. Now all of a sudden she stops and starts smiling at her mom, Evelyn. I don't know why. I definitely wouldn't assume that little high-pitched feedback killed it, and you don't need to worry. Like, just because it fell over for like 1 second doesn't mean that you're safe. It seems sort of like a ridiculous thing to assume. Why not keep playing it and go check it out? Maybe shoot it or stab it or do something just to be sure. Well, anyway, the creature now has a chance to get back up and go towards them. And as it goes towards them, Evelyn pulls out a shotgun, which, by the way, I'm confused why uh, Lee wouldn't have brought that shotgun with him when he went to save the kids. But anyways, Evelyn shoots it in the face with a shotgun, and ostensibly it dies. But this just raises way more questions than answers. The movie had hyped up how powerful these things were. There are news articles pinned to the wall in the movie which I say, and I quote, indestructible with a question mark and a picture of an armored soldier running with an assault rifle. And in looking at some stuff up about this movie, I found a picture from one of the trailers, I think, where literally it's like an article that says the army can't help you now, you're on your own or something absolutely ridiculous. I mean, now how is this thing indestructible if it can literally be killed by one shot with a shotgun? That's not indestructible. The army would have absolutely wrecked these things. You're telling me that soldiers with assault rifles would not have killed these things? You're telling me the army couldn't have killed them, and no one could have figured out that high-pitched feedback messes with them? You wouldn't even needed that. And I wrote before, maybe the army knows that knows how this works and it's going after them. But the fact that news article exists shows that clearly the army isn't going after them. It just makes no sense whatsoever. I mean, if shooting the things killed them, why didn't they just get on a tower, or the grain silo or something, set up a stereo nearby the tower but not right next to it, play some stuff on it, or anything that makes sound, just shoot off some rockets, lure them over to that sound, and then just rain bullets down on them with a rifle and shotgun. The movie makes it clear that there's only 3 of these things in their area, so it shouldn't have even been that hard. One thing they could have done to make it clear how dangerous this thing was make a whole lot more of the monsters. That would have made it a much more serious threat. It's like an I Am Legend if there were only 3 zombies. I mean, imagine that. It's just ridiculous. Now, if sound lures them, why didn't they carry around a bunch of random stuff to throw at the wall? Sort of a minor complaint, but I feel like they should have some objects in their backpack that they can just throw. Or what about an alarm clock that you can set off at any minute and throw, or an iPod that plays music? There's so many ways they could have avoided some of their problems. Now, I'm not saying this movie is horrible. There are much worse movies, especially horror movies, which suffers from bad filmmaking a lot than this movie. One scene I thought was clever is when Evelyn first goes into labor. She utilizes that alarm clock thing that I'm talking about, because after she makes that noise, she sets up an alarm clock and puts it on the opposite side of the room. And then when the monsters come after her, it goes off and distracts the monster, which allows her to escape. It's a clever and good way to play off the concept that they set up for the monster. However, it also raises the question, if they're smart enough to do that, why didn't they consider doing similar things throughout the course of the movie? One final complaint I have is the monster itself. Firstly, they chose to show what it looks like from the start, and regularly, which sort of messed with the mystery that the trailer had built up in my opinion. But fine, being direct is okay sometimes. And I'm not sure if the different trailers had, to what extent they revealed the monsters, but I remember the first one I saw, the teaser definitely didn't, and they should have stuck with that in my opinion. One serious problem with this monster, though, is that it is straight up looks exactly like the monster from Stranger Things. It makes similar noises and sort of acts like it. Now more, it's just slightly different. I mean, it's definitely not like they literally copy and pasted the monster, but it's super similar. Like the way that its face sort of like parts and you can sort of like it like goes into this weird sort of almost crazy flower shape. It's sort of like exactly what the Stranger Things monster did. Now, maybe this is just a coincidence. I mean, I'm just speculating at this point, but as someone who's already watched Stranger Things, it sort of ruins a lot of the fear to have it clear from the start that it's going to be super similar to creatures we've seen before, like Stranger Things, and also sort of ruined it to see it from the very start. I mean, I thought that was sort of lame. I honestly think this movie could have been so much more scary if they'd chosen literally any other design for the monster. I think even something supernatural or zombies, even though both are cliche choices, could have worked better. So, in conclusion, first of all, this isn't a horrible movie. I focused on the parts that I thought were bad, and actually, if I really wanted to do a full analysis, I could have taken a lot longer. There are other elements that I didn't mention that pissed me off. I just mentioned some of the main glaring problems. But there are definitely some good scenes, and I focused more on the bad than the good here, because it seems like everyone absolutely thinks this film's a masterpiece or something, and I gotta say, it's not. It's just a regular horror movie. It's better, I would say, than most horror movies that come out, because most horror movies that come out are pretty crap, but it is not a masterpiece. It's not gonna, change horror. It's not anything like that. It's sort of run-of-the-mill, it's cliche, it's predictable, and there are a lot of really stupid things and things they could have explained much, much better. So it's by no means a horrible movie, and if you want to see it and you really like Jim from The Office or horror movies, I know that's sort of a weird combination. I would still say go out and see it, but just don't set your expectations too high. I think part of the problem is that I was really hyped for the movie, and it got a 97% of Rotten Tomatoes. Everyone's saying it's a masterpiece on IMDb, but I'm telling you straight up, it's not like that. So, if you disagree with me, that's cool. There's no need to have any animosity between us, but I'm definitely interested to hear why you think these things weren't problems. So if anyone has anything to say on that front, definitely leave it in the comments, and thank you all for watching.